Dear viewers, it's the 17th of February. UK time is just 9:35, and it is the 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗕 channel live. Today we will continue our discussion on the topic of the Deobandis. Even I've forgotten what number we're up to. I'm sure 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦 will be able to clarify what number that is.
Episode 14. Episode 14.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm your host today, Sayyid Hassan Bukhari, and I'm joined by the other two panel members, Sayyid Ali and Sayyid Zadi. Now, in terms of many things have happened during the week. We've been very busy. You know, the fact of the matter is that all of the team, we are working. Some of us are students. I'm way past student age, looking at myself, but we've got busy lives, so we tend to only really have time on a Sunday to sort of get together and deal with matters. So obviously, in the ideal world, people come to us and say, "Are you going to, you know, address these matters, that matter?" Inshallah ta'ala, in our own time, we'll look at stuff. There's many projects that we want to look at, many topic areas we wish to address, all in good time. But we will do things at our own pace. We've had a very busy week indeed. Something I'd want to say to you is that, you know, our critics are keen to try to sort of present themselves, and they're desperate to try and create this wedge between Sunnis and Shias. If you look at the output that they produce, it's really nothing. The only intention, the only sort of objective that these individuals have at the moment, if you look at the main channels which are trying to propagate anti-Shiism, their only focus is to try and create a wedge between the two sects. So to foster an atmosphere of hatred, which is something from day one when we set this channel up, we were very clear that the objective of the channel was to defend the Shia stance from criticism. It wasn't really to go on to the attack. It was essentially there to provide, for far too long, venues such as Hyde Park had effectively been no-go areas for the Shia Muslim community, and they were effectively a version of Islam that was being propagated was that for adherents of just one sect, and even within that sect, the adherents of a particular splinter group of it. So that's why we were set up. Now, you can do as much propaganda and as much hatred as you like, and you can produce as many videos as you like. Fact of the matter is, Alhamdulillah, the message of Ahlul Bayt ﷺ is still reaching the hearts and the minds of people who have that love for Ahlul Bayt ﷺ. Just this week, I can tell you right now that just this week we've had two brothers that have, Alhamdulillah, accepted the Walayat of Amirul Mu'mineen ﷺ and embraced the path of Islam through the blessed Imams of Ahlul Bayt ﷺ, through that understanding, through these teachings. And these were two individuals which were severe critics of the Shia Muslim community. They were very much affiliated with, one was very much affiliated with one of the groups which is sort of propagating hatred to us right now, in the sense that he very much was influenced by them. So we've got one individual. We had another individual who was so vociferous in his language, in his tone, that Sayyid Ali even blocked that individual because he got so fed up over his language. And yet, that individual has now come to the path of Ahlul Bayt ﷺ as well. So, you know, you can do as much propaganda and as much hatred as you like. Fact of the matter is, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still shines that beacon of guidance into the hearts of those believers who have that love for Ahlul Bayt ﷺ in their hearts. Now, as you know, we are doing our series on the Deobandi movement, and as Brother Sayyid Ali said, we are into episode 14. We are essentially, part of it, people say, are you flogging a dead horse, and why are you carrying on? Well, in truth be told, the need obviously did arise because there was the Deobandi dynamic duo, which decided to essentially launch an assault on us. So we thought, well, it's only fair that we reciprocate their kindness and essentially place their beliefs under the microscope. Hence, we're episode 14 now. Are we offering anything different tonight? Inshallah ta'ala, you will see. We certainly are. We're going to talk, I'll talk about that in the second segment. But as you all know, What is the norm with these shows, folks? That's right. The norm is we address the typical modus operandi of our opponents, namely their desire to present a proof of Sunnism from Shia texts by using that old methodology of dishonesty, deception, to try and dupe individuals. So inshallah ta'ala, that will be exposed right now. So without a moment's hesitation, Sayyid Ali, it's over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you viewers for joining us today. We're going to try to keep this show as brief as possible, only because we've had numerous members of the public contact us and saying that they can't always dedicate time to watching the content. So inshallah, as always, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you a video clip, and then we're going to play the video clip, and then we can inshallah discuss it in detail. So if you just bear with me a minute, I'll bring up the clip for you guys to look. Okay, so you should be able to see now my screen. Sayyid Hassan, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so as we previously demonstrated, I think even though this is our 14th episode, we've predominantly covered most of the objections, and we've shown in our previous shows how they orchestrate these type of questions, all premeditated. So you're going to hear this mostly saying the typical thing. You know, a brother had a question, and conveniently he'll have a book dealing with that particular response.
And the question is that the verses that the Shia use, 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗙𝗘 لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّهُمُ اللَّهُ, and all the rest of the verses to prove the Imam of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu himself used those verses. What was his stance on his so-called Imam himself? So I will run over here to 𝗡𝗢𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡𝗦, volume 32. Very, very clear reference. He says, كنت كارها للولاية على أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم, that I did not want to leave the ummah of Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى اجتمع رأيكم على ذلك. He's addressing the Muhajirin and Ansar, the population of Sahaba. He says, until your right and your opinion and your view that I should lead the ummah of Rasulullah should be the Khalifa, until you all agree. Up until that point, I did not want to leave the ummah. In other words, I was in this line. So this clearly proves that had it been definitively proven from the Holy Qur'an, with definite concrete proof from the Holy Qur'an, then Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala would not wait for the right and the opinion of the Muhajirin and Ansar to put him forward as a leader. He would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed me in the Holy Qur'an. So this reference itself, and a few other places, the same place, the same reference is coming this morning in this book, page 17, volume 32. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala himself did not see his own khilafah in the Holy Qur'an. Very simple.
So that's the clip, guys. Sayyid Hassan, did you want to say anything before we
need to
continue? Sorry, apologies.
No, that's fine. I think we can see we've heard the narration. Let's crack on and deal with it.
Okay. Sayyid Zaidi, did you want to say anything?
No, Sayyid, I think we should come to the main topic and answer the main accusation.
Okay, no problem, inshallah. So what I'm going to do is I should bring up this tradition so the viewers can have a look at it themselves. Just give me a minute. Yep, so we've got the document now, and we're going to discuss the narration, which is obviously presented from 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗕𝗦, claiming that the verses that the Shias use to prove the imamah of Imam Ali alayhi salam is he himself didn't bring these verses. This is not correct at all. If you pick up books like hadith collections like Al-Kafi and other works, you'll see that the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt did use those very same verses as the Shias do to prove the divine leadership. Nevertheless, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Sayyid Zaidi to discuss the narration he presented and how he misquoted it.
Yes, Sayyid. So this quotation is from Bihar al-Anwar, volume number 32, page number 16. And the hadith or the quotation is number 7. Now, interestingly, it goes, this quotation, this report is in more than 2 pages. It starts on page number 16 and it goes as وقال ابن أبي حديد في شرح نهج نقلا عن أبي جعفر الإسقافي قال لما اجتمعت الصحابة بعد قتل عثمان في مسجد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم في أمر الإمامة أشار أبو هيثم بن تيهان ورفاع بن رافع ومالك بن عجلان وأبو أيوب الأنصاري وعمار بن ياسر بعلي عليه السلام وذكروا فضله وسابقته وجهاده إلى الآخر. So this is a lengthy quotation, and the way it goes is that Ibn Abi Hadid, so Allama Majlisi is quoting Ibn Abi Hadid in Sharh Nahj. So Ibn Abi Hadid is the one that mentioned this quotation from whom? From Abu Ja'far al-Askafi. So it's not a Shi'i tradition, it's from a scholar called Abu Ja'far al-Askafi. And even if you go to Sharh Nahj, this quotation can be easily found. It is there in Sharh Nahj al-Balagha from Ibn Abi Hadid. And the guy who is mentioning this, or the muhaddith, is Abu Ja'far al-Iskafi. Now, Khatib al-Baghdadi, in his book Tarikh al-Baghdad, narrator number 949, says Muhammad ibn Abdullah Abu Ja'far al-Ma'ruf bil-Iskafi أحد المتكلمين من معتزل البغداديين له تصانيف معروفة وكان الحسين بن علي الكرابيسي يتكلم معه ويناظره وبلغني أنه مات في سنة 40 و200. So, the English please?
Yeah, sure.
About Askafi.
Sure.
Just for our viewers, just mention what Allan Majlisi says and then read who's Askafi.
So,
Go ahead, Said.
Sure, Sayyid Zaidi. So, Askafi was he was obviously a Mutazili scholar, and in the tradition mentioned in Bahar Anwar, Allama Majlisi is actually quoting it on his authority. So this is in no way a Shia tradition as such, and we've discussed this in our previous episodes, how compilers of hadith used to not only just quote Shia traditions, but they used to quote traditions of their opponents. And Bahar al-Anwar is a famous work for that. But what's interesting is on the same in the same tradition, which this Mufti failed to mention, is the criticism Imam Ali alayhi salam made on Usman. Sayyid Zaidi, did you want to read that part?
Yes, yes. So the way it goes is فأفضل الأمر منهم إلى عثمان فأفضل الأمر منهم إلى عثمان فعمل ما أنكرتم وعرفتم ثم حصر وقتل ثم جئتموني فطلبتم إلي وإنما أنا رجل منكم. So yes, Said, go ahead.
So that part which he did miss out, is where Imam Ali alayhi salam actually speaks against Usman, and he says Usman was a ruler, and he acted that you disapproved and approved, then he was imprisoned and killed. So you can't just take part of the tradition and not read the other part. You need to take parts of it which actually suit you, even though it can be contextualized. The whole thing can be contextualized. There's a context behind it, but the original source is not even a Shia 𝗦𝗨𝗏𝗧 source. Okay, it's come from a Mutazili scholar. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, Said, my point here is that the people that were doing the bay'ah, as per Ahl Sunnah, were Muhajirin wa Ansar. Right? These were the people that did bay'ah. So when they did the bay'ah, when Amir al-Mu'mineen is addressing them, and if you read the whole khutbah, you would come across this, and he was addressing Muhajirin specifically too in it. So he said that Uthman did few stuff that you didn't like and you disapprove, which just shows you that the way Uthman was killed wasn't the way that our opponents wants to show us, that he was killed by a group of rebels that didn't had any Sahaba within them, that were just like a group of rebels from Misr, from Egypt, that came in and that killed Uthman. Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying that that the people that went against Uthman, or that basically disapproved what Uthman was doing, were Muhajirin and Ansar, or specifically Muhajirin, let's say that, right? And then he was imprisoned, and then he was killed, right? It shows that one of the two was right. Either Muhajirin were right when they went against and when they were disapproving Uthman, due to which he was killed, or Uthman was right and those Muhajirin were wrong. So if you want to accept the whole tradition, you have to accept this thing too.
Absolutely.
Yes,
you,
sir.
you
Go
can't
ahead.
have, you can't have your cake and eat it, as they say. So we've come to the same tradition that actually interestingly mentioned in Al-Amali of Sheikh Tusi. And when we look at the chain,
Say, let me read you the chain. Sheikh Tusi in page number 1002 in Amali quotes, وعنه قال أخبرنا ابن الصلت قال أخبرنا أحمد بن محمد بن سعيد قال حدثنا الحسن بن صالح الهمداني أبو علي من كتابه في ربيع الأول سنة 78. وأحمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا محمد بن عمرو قال حدثنا عبد الكريم قال حدثنا القاسم بن أحمد قال حدثنا أبو الصلاة عبد السلام بن صالح الهروي قال حدثنا أبو العباس أحمد بن محمد وحدثنا القاسم بن حسن العلوي الحسني قال حدثنا أبو صلى قال حدثنا علي بن عبد الله النعجة قال حدثنا أبو سهيل بن مالك عن مالك بن أوس أوس الحدثان قال لما. The narration goes down. This is the sanad. Just want to come in here specifically, Sayyid. Before you show what's the problem with it, it is a Sunni tradition altogether. If you take out Abdul Salam bin Salih al-Harawi, he's a thiqah, he is a really authentic narrator for us. And even in Sunni quotation, he's also termed a thiqah. Some of them have said something, but we're not going into it right now. The thing is that I was going through the tarajim. We're just quoting one tarjuma, or like one specific narrator for now, just to keep it really precise. But I was going through the tarjuma of Abu Sahil ibn Malik. He's a Sunni narrator. Ali ibn Abdullah ibn Na'ja. He's an Shi'i. He's not authentic as per us, right? And even before Abu Salat, there are scholars, there are narrators that are, like, some of them are not even Shi'i. We don't know anything about them. And it's pretty, I'm pretty sure that what Sheikh Tusi quoted is like a Sunni quotation altogether. Right? So go ahead, Sayyid.
So yeah, for example, Qasim ibn Hassan al-Alawi is said to be not mentioned in the books of Rajal, and he's an unknown person, as Sayyid Zaidi mentioned. It has many people in the chain who are unknown, and when we do go to investigate some of the biographies of these people, we find out that it's very much a Sunni chain. So this from Mustadrak al-Ilm al-Rajal al-Hadith, volume 6, page number 241. And that.
Say just a correction. I think perhaps in English we didn't write it properly. It's Mustadrakat Ilm Rijal al-Hadith. Mustadrakat. It's like a jam'. It's not only Mustadrak. It's not one. It's like Mustadrakat.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we've tackled that particular tradition. I don't know if Sayyid Hassan wants to add anything to that, or.
I think that kind of really does hit the nail on the head in terms of addressing that narration. Not only has it been quoted partially, the fact of the matter is the narration yourself that was presented at Hyde Park with such glee by one part of the dynamic duo was in fact a Sunni narration. So, like a non-Shia narration, albeit someone from the Mu'tazili school, certainly not Shia. So, in all honesty, yet again, another example of dishonesty and deception by our friends from the north.
The other problem that I see is that I have seen their videos, and we all have seen, and aren't they the one that say, okay, we are the one that only quote authentic stuff from the Shia books. We make sure that whatever we quote is always in context. We're not missing it out. But when Shia quotes, they always quote out of context and they are quoting the weak things.
Yes,
So
they've
I'm
said
just
that,
going
yeah.
by their own standard. If they mention in their standard, look, we can quote whatever we want. Like one of our opponent that comes in, he's getting honest and honest day by day. So he says that, look, I can quote whatever I can, and you have to tell us where the weakness is. Like, I'm just quoting, you know, I'm not specialist in it, right? So he's just getting, you know, he's being honest there, right? But with them, with those Deobandis scholars, they say something, but when it comes to the quotation, it goes the other way.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
You know, the thing is, you know, you can't. The problem that we have is these people. They want us to use a different standard or accuse us of not using a certain standard, but they could use a different standard, but we can't respond to the same methodology. You understand? It doesn't work that way. The problem is, on the one hand, you tout yourself as being these um, representative of the truth, of individuals that are bona fide, individuals that can refute Shiism through honesty and integrity, and you're doing the exact opposite. I think I've lost count of the number of shows now where we've addressed the specific dishonesty of the dynamic duo. This was all done at one day when they went to Hyde Park, and look how many narrations they quoted that day, and how many of them were quoted out of context or through deception. And it's really tragic, really. You know, you guys have studied, obviously you are sheikhs, you studied at the madrasa, you teach there, and look at this. I mean, is this how you're going to refute Shiism? By quoting narrations out of context, you know, incorrect narrative, incorrect interpretation, messing about with the Arabic. These games need to stop. There's nothing new. You are actually following the methodology of, we know which scholars from 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗦𝗦𝗢𝗧, etc. you've been influenced by from your camp, but please, it doesn't help you, because obviously now you're trying to bring your deviation in dishonesty to an English audience, and unfortunately you're being exposed. I think really that would be our essential nasiha to these brothers, to try to please sort of leave this sort of nonsense and try to be, if you want to attack Shiism, do it in an academic way, not in a dishonest way. I think that is sufficient. Sayyid Ali, would you be happy for me to now go to the crux of this show?
Absolutely. Let's start the topic of discussion today.
Okay, the topic at hand. We will be looking at the Deobandi position of how they have caused immense disrespect of the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in doing so, we will place that whole concept, their belief system, under the microscope. We have touched on this before, but we are looking at the matter from another angle. So inshallah ta'ala, the references that you be presented with today are going to be of a fresh nature. Now, when it comes to the Quran, it's a highly emotive subject, because obviously all Muslims, whatever sect they adhere to, have immense reverence and love for the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, revealed on the chest of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously it is the divine book of guidance for all Muslims. And if you go to any Muslim house, you will see that it is kept in a lofty position within the house, treated with respect, held, kissed when, you know, in our sort of communities, when it's brought, it's kissed. It's made sure it's kept on a high position, so no one's sort of lower part of their body touches it. So that's the sort of reverence we have with the Quran. And obviously, as Muslims, it creates a lot of emotion when we see non-Muslims attacking the Quran, whether that be in terms of suggesting that it isn't the word of God, or that we get more extremist elements amongst the non-Muslim individuals. We have die-hard sort of Bible bashers, Christians, such as that, I think it was Terry Jones many years ago, who wanted to dedicate a day for burning the Quran. And you can see the amount of anger that caused in the Muslim community. And we had particularly vocal marches being brought by the Deobandi community in Pakistan and India, you know, calling for the death of Jones over what he had done. Obviously blasphemy. They were saying that, they were pining that if he was to touch a page of the Quran, action should be taken against him. He should be punished and he should be executed. So it's a highly emotive topic. A book that revered by all Muslims, whatever sect they adhere to, is, when an individual is saying, listen, I'm going to show my disdain for this book by setting it on fire. Obviously it touches an emotional nerve, and it creates this kind of anger. Many people were simply, like, I was of the view that we should just ignore this individual. He's looking for publicity, but you can see particularly, emotions were running high, and we can see how, for example, the Deobandi community played a very lead role in kind of highlighting the issue, and as is their norm in our countries, that involved taking out marches, attacking any shop to do with the West, setting things on fire, causing millions of pounds of damage. The fact that that would affect the economy of that country is irrelevant, but the subject of the anger was, oh, it is the Quran that is being insulted. And that was the reason why the Bandi community would take to the streets, and their sheikhs would rile up their adherents. So, with that in mind, let's look at the Deobandi position on the Quran. Let's see how they revere it. Let's see its importance for them. And that's really the purpose of today's show, inshallah ta'ala. We're nearing the end of our series on the Deobandis. But since these are individuals and they take a considerable enjoyment out of attacking the Shia community and saying, oh, Shias don't believe in the Quran, X, Y, Z, riding up emotions, let's look at the Deobandi position of the Quran. Before you start dealing with the Shia community, let's see what your books, what your revered sheikhs believed and attested to how the Quran should be respected. Okay, Sayyid Ali and Sayyid Zadi, over to you two brothers.
Thank you for that, Sayyid. And inshallah, me and Sayyid Zadi are going to present this document for the viewers to see. And we've decided to call it Disrespect of the Holy Quran. Sayyid Hassan Bukhari, mashallah, you've done a very beautiful introduction to that. That was much appreciated. So, Sayyid Zadi, do you want to read the Urdu, inshallah, and then I can deal with the English?
Yes, definitely, Sayyid. So,
before you do, Sayyid, just on a quick point, this same book is also available in English. You can download the PDF version online. It's a famous book written by 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦, who was one of the founding fathers of the Deobandi movement, somebody who we've mentioned in the previous episodes. So Zadi can probably give a further elaboration in terms of what this book is, what it composes of, and how it allegedly passes off as some sort of remedy for those who are physically sick or suffering in any kind.
Yes, so different people have different problems in their life, and Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi has given their remedies by quoting the Quranic ayats, right? So if they would read this Quranic ayah, and if they would read in this way, or if they would tie it to this part of the body or that part of the body, this will give them the solution to this problem and that problem. So yeah, I think it's a really good thing to quote Quranic ayats to get solutions to our problem. Obviously, as we know, there are so many Quranic ayats. Surah Waqi'ah has its own blessing. Surah Mujadila has its own blessing. Different surahs, Surah Yasin, Surah Rahman, different surahs, right? So all of these surahs have their own blessings, and they act in a different way, and they are catalysts to a lot of our problems. And here I'm talking about specific problems that we face in our life. We might have some physical, we might have spiritual problems, and honestly, all Quran is remedy for our spiritual problems, for the problems that we face in our life, be it individual problem, be it physical, be it like a collective spiritual problem, or be it an individual spiritual problem. But what about if someone has a physical problem? Does Quran has a remedy for that? So scholars have said, yeah, it has different ayahs of the Quran have different remedies for our physical problems too. Ayatul Kursi has certain remedies for a lot of our problems. Surah Fatih, yani Suratul Hamd or Fatihatul Kitab has different solution to our problems. So that's a really good thing. But the situation gets really bad when people, instead of using it in a positive way, they start using it in a negative way. And this is what we will be quoting you from 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙 by 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦.
Thank you, sir.
So we are with him when it comes to giving positive solutions, but we are not with him when it comes to going step extra and basically providing solutions that is disrespect to Quran itself. Right. So Sayyid, do you want me to start the references, or you want to say something?
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
So the first reference that now this book will be coming quite often. So the reference that, or the edition that we are using, is available online. So people can type 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙 PDF, and they can go to archive and they can download this book. This is 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙 as Hakeemul Ummah, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi, Nashir. The publisher is Baitul Kutub, Karachi. So it's published in Karachi, Pakistan, and the reference that I have is page number 20. And the heading that Maulana gives is Adawat wa Tafriq ke liye. You know, if you want to create schism or if you want to create division among the people, then what someone has to do. So see the title, like how misleading the title is. Now again, I'm saying we're not against those solutions that are genuine problems of the people and how to use the Quranic ayat to get the solutions, but we are against misusing this Quran for our evil thoughts and evil purposes. Do you get it? So now Maulana is using Quran for their evil thoughts, and he says, use this ayah of Surah Ma'idah, وَأَلْقَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Right? This is the ayah. लिखते हैं, like he writes, खासियत, अगर दो आदमियों में तफरीक व अदावत डालना चाहिए तो इस आयत को भोज पत्थर पर लिखकर इसके नीचे ये नक्श लिखे. Naqsh means a drawing or something that you have to make. That's like a really weird kind of naqsh, I don't know. और इस नक्श के नीचे ये इबारत लिखे कि दरमियान फला फला के तफरीक वाक़े हो. फला की जगह दोनों का नाम लिखे और तावीज़ बनाकर दरमियान पुरानी दो कब्रों के दफन कर देवे, मगर नाहक के लिए ना करे वरना गुनहगार होगा. So go through it. Go through the translation, please.
Thank you, Sayyid Zadi, for that quick little intro about the book. I think it's important to set the theme. But as I mentioned, this book is actually available in English. You can always cross-reference. Sorry, Sayyid, can you mute your microphone? So yeah, of course, you can always go back and cross-reference to make sure that obviously they match up. If they don't match up, then please do bring it to our attention, because it's just going to demonstrate to us that they've obviously distorted their books, because this book was originally written in Urdu, I believe. So as Sayyid Zadi mentioned, we don't, you know, of course, nobody denies the miracles of the Holy Qur'an and how certain verses of the Holy Qur'an benefit you and protect you. We know this, and they benefit us as Muslims in many ways, reciting to keep away, you know, evil spirits such as jinns and so forth. In particular, this book, 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙, Ashraf Ali Thanvi has a chapter heading called Magic to Separate Two People. So he's demonstrating now how to separate two people. So he uses this verse of the Holy Quran, saying, we have put hatred and animosity between them until the day of resurrection. Okay, so now what they've done is, and by the way, in no way this verse is tafsir of any kind, a commentary to what they're about to say now. Okay, so we need to be very clear about this, because if somebody's watching this assuming that this verse is evidence to use magic to separate two people, that's not the case at all. So he uses this verse and he says, if you desire to separate and put hatred between two people, write this verse on a buj stone. So it's a particular type of stone. Then write the picture, and the picture is the one which is shown on the scan. That's the picture. Where's it gone? There's the picture. And by the way, it's a picture, it's a design, or what they say, naqsh. Write this verse on Bridgestone, then write the picture. So draw that naqsh, and below the picture, write the sentence, may the separation occur between so-and-so and so-and-so. Write the names of the two people instead of fulan. Make a taweez, some type of like, I think they call it a talisman, I believe. Make a taweez of it and bury it in between two old graves. Okay, but don't do it for people not deserving this, as it will be a sin. So on one hand, he's admitting that, you know, if you do this to the wrong type of person, of course it's not permitted, but apparently if you want to do it, if you want to do it as a general principle against two people who deserve it, then it's fine, it's not an issue. It doesn't. I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Actually, you know what? I might try that later on. I know two particular sheikhs who I wouldn't mind causing hatred and animosity. And if it doesn't work, guys, you can't complain. You can't complain to me. You're gonna have to take up with 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗡 on the Day of Judgment.
Amazing, isn't it? A book of God that obviously is there to foster understanding and friendship and love between believers. 𝗧𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗡 is actually providing guidance on how you can utilize a verse to essentially split individuals apart. Truly amazing, truly amazing. Carry on, say that.
It says, Zeddy, I'm gonna read this next one. Actually, it's better if you read it, because I think these are quite short in Urdu, and I think it would target a lot of the Urdu speaking audience as well.
Yes, sir. So the next one is, the heading goes as ولادت में सहूलत के लिए. إذا السماء انشقت وأذن لربها وحقت وإذا الأرض مدت وألقت ما فيها وتخلت. These are 4 ayahs from Surah Inshiqaq. खासियत, which means that he writes, इन आयतों को लिखकर विलादत की आसानी के लिए बाएं रान में बांध दे, इंशाअल्लाह ताला बहुत आसानी से विलादत होगी, मगर बाद विलादत तावीज़ को फौरन खोल देना चाहिए और इसी औरत के सर के बाल की धुनी मकाम खास पर देना मुफीद विलादत है. Yes, Sayyid, go ahead.
So, in order to have easy birth, in order to give easy birth to a child, so he says the first 4 ayahs of this surah in Shaqqa should be written, and it should be tied to the left thigh. So what you do is you write the first 4 ayahs of this surah, and you wrap it around the left thigh of the woman. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, then giving birth will be very easy. See, the problem here is, okay, fair enough, I can understand maybe if you want to tie around the arm, okay, you know, okay, that can be perhaps justified to some extent, but to tie it to the left thigh, especially in the area which would technically fall under the aura, the parts which Muslims are instructed to definitely veil. So Zeddy, did you want to add anything to that? I mean, am I wrong to understand this in this way?
Yes, Sayyid, as per Sunni fiqh and as per some of the Shi'i scholars too, the aura, or the private part, is all the way from the belly button or from the navel all the way to the thigh area. That's the aura for the man. The aura for woman is her whole body, but just her hands and her face. And for some scholars, they even have to cover the face. Both the Shia and Sunni scholars have this view, but some of them, the present scholars like Albani and the Shia scholars like Sistani and others, for them, they don't believe that you have to cover the face too. Anyway, that's a fiqhi thing. But the aura, for the Sunni people at least, For the Shia, they have a difference of view what constitutes as an awrah.
Yeah.
For the Sunni people, a lot of their scholars, they believe that the awrah is all the way from the area, from the belly button, all the way to the thigh.
Yeah.
Now, if the knees, the all the way to knees, sorry, that should be more precise. So if someone is, if someone is holding or attaching the ayah of a Quran or the 4 ayahs of the Quran on the left thigh, I mean, like, we really don't have to go into detail whether it's part of awrah or not. Just leave it. Would a Muslim, I can say this honestly, would a Muslim go and have his wife, tied the knot, tied 4 ayahs in her left thigh?
Yeah. Especially
That just doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, like, that's
say it,
disrespect to Quran.
Say it, especially during childbirth, right? Because a woman, when she, potentially she breaks her water, etc., etc. The whole, because obviously for us, the verses of the Holy Qur'an are very sacred, and that's why Allah Subhanahu wa Taala mentioned in the Holy Qur'an that none can touch it except the purified ones. So our Muslims are supposed to have a certain degree of respect, definitely, to the words of the Holy Qur'an, especially the written words of the Holy Qur'an. But this goes without saying. This would be considered quite blasphemous and quite generally disrespectful, no doubt. Let's jump on.
I think, Sayyid, before we say about, we shouldn't have our own standard. We are start watching all live or watching after this.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if someone within your own community or within your own friend circle or within your own close family would do this? How would you react? Tell me honestly. Like, I really don't know. Like, is there any other way of disrespecting the Quran? And if they
Absolutely.
they always have a claim, oh, we need to see what the Salaf has said, the Salafs have said, or the Quran, what's there in Quran, what's there in Sunnah. Okay, we'll leave Salaf right now. Show me one ayah in the Quran, or show me one hadith in the literature saying that you can do this. There is no, as far as my knowledge is concerned, and obviously my knowledge is limited, so if someone knows, they can come and they can educate me. Look, this is the ayah that we are using, or this is the verse, or this is the hadith we are using, and that proves attaching the Holy Qur'an, the written Holy Qur'an, to the left thigh. As far as I know, I asked Sayyid Hassan, I asked Sayyid Ali, I asked my viewers. If you guys know anything, then please let us know.
Okay, let's jump to the next amulet.
All right, Sayyid. So the next one is again from 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗕𝗘 Qur'ani. This is 1 second. Let's go back. Page number 29. Right. Naaf ki taklif se hifazat. And then he quotes an ayah from Surah Baqarah, verse number 178. ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. That's the part of the ayah that he quotes. खासियत जिसकी नाफ टल गई हो इस आयत करीमा को लिखकर नाफ पर बांध दे, इंशाअल्लाह ताला सेहत हो जाएगी. Go ahead, say.
In order to attain cure from navel pain, a stomachache of some kind, you write verse 178 of Surah Baqarah and attach it to the navel. And if Allah wills, a person will be healed. So again, it kind of falls in the whole, what we would consider to be at least the parts which, the Muslims are definitely need to cover. Page 29. Okay, let's go to the next one.
The next one is Sayyid same 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗔 Qur'ani, page number 24. And one thing that I have to mention here, and Sayyid Ali mentioned it too, that this 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗔 Qur'ani is not a really obscure, is really concealed, and we have discovered it. It's available online, it's available in markets, and Sayyid Ali mentioned it's available in English, so it just shows you that this book is considered really authentic for them. Right? So again, whatever we are quoting, we are not quoting from unknown sources. We are quoting from the really authentic sources right now. So page number 24, Hamal ki hifazat, and he quotes he quotes an ayah from Surah Ra'd. Allahu ya'lamu ma tahmilu kullu untha wa ma تغيظ وما تغيظ الأرحام وما تزداد وكل شيء عنده بمقدار. खासियत का खौफ हो या हमल ना ठहरता हो, इस आयत की आयत इन दोनों को लिखकर औरत के रहम पर बांध दे, इंशाअल्लाह ताला हमल महफूज रहेगा, और अगर ना ठहरता होगा तो करार पाएगा. Go ahead, say it.
Yeah, sure. Just bear with me a minute. Oh, sorry. So he says, in order to safeguard against pregnancy, so a woman potentially who could have an abortion. Sorry, so can you mute your microphone? Thank you. So he's talking about a woman who can potentially suffer from having an abortion. Okay. So he says, in order to safeguard pregnancy, write verse 8 of Surah Rad and an ayah before it, and attach it to the womb. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, the pregnancy will be saved. Again, that same type of area which we would definitely, as Muslims, cover. It's obligatory for us to cover. And the whole issue about whether or not, it would be practical to have it attached to that part of the body. Should we come to more of the accounts and stories of what they've mentioned about the elders, about how they treated the Holy Qur'an?
Yes, sir. Time to come what they have mentioned about their elders, and the quotation that we have is from 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙, but this time that's not 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗕. He is quoting 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡𝗦. 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡𝗦, as we know, is a famous anti-Shi'i scholar, and a famous book called 𝗡𝗢𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡𝗦. As we say 𝗡𝗢𝗧 in Urdu and Farsi, they say 𝗡𝗢𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡. That book is a really huge book. It's divided into 12 sections, and in all 12 sections he has tried his best to refute Shia Islam. And now 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙 is quoting Shaykh Abdul Aziz al-Dehlwi. It's 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗡𝗦𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡𝗦, volume number 15, page number 182, and it's published by Idara Talifat Ashrafiyya, Multan, Pakistan. So he says, एक शख्स मौलाना शाह अब्दुल अजीज साहब के पास रोते हुए आए. हजरत ने फरमाया, क्या बात है? उसने कहा, मैंने ऐसा ख्वाब देखा है कि मुझे अंदेशा है कि मेरा ईमान न जाता रहे. हजरत ने फरमाया कि बयान तो करो. इन साहब ने कहा कि मैंने देखा है कि कुरान मजीद पर पेशाब कर रहा हूँ. अल्लाह. हजरत ने फरमाया, ये तो बहुत अच्छा ख्वाब है, तुम्हारा लड़का पैदा होगा और हाफिज होगा. Go ahead, say it.
So in Malfuzat of Hakim al-Ummah, a person came to Maulana Shah Abdul Aziz Saab whilst crying. Shah Abdul Aziz said, what's happened? He replied that I saw a dream, that I believe that my faith would not perish owing to it. Shah Abdul Aziz said, describe the dream to me. He replied that I saw in a dream that I am urinating on the Holy Qur'an. Shah Abdul Aziz said, this is a wonderful dream. You will beget a son and he will be a hafiz, he will be a scholar. Absolutely. See, the thing is, even this individual who came to, describe his dream, even he knew it was problematic, but instead of, rebuking this individual, he's pretty much he's praised the dream. He said, that's a great dream. It's great that you were urinating over the Holy Quran. As a result of that, you will beget a son and he will be a scholar.
I'm not quite, I really find that confusing. What's the nexus between urinating on God's blessed book and acquiring knowledge, and that giving you the green light to becoming a hafiz? I really don't understand that. Is that some sort of gateway to Quranic memorization? Really, I'm at a complete loss as to why that's the case. Anyway, carry on, Sayyid.
apparently only God has knowledge of them soon.
All right, so let's go for the next one, and I think this one will be a really interesting case that we'll be discussing now. Mufti Taqi Usmani. Mufti Taqi Usmani is again a really well-known scholar in Pakistan and India, even in Iran. He has gone to Iran. He has gone to India. He has gone to Deoband and different other places. Really famous scholar, and especially within the Deobandi circles, he is the most respected scholar in today's age, as far as I think so. Maybe there might be 2-3 scholars over him, maybe, but I think he should be among the top 5 or 10 scholars easily. So he has his book was published, so he has different articles that he has written, and that was combined in one book called 𝗙𝗢𝗧𝗦𝗙𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓. And the edition that we have is the old one that we will quote from. It's volume number 4, page number 146. So he says, Fiqhi Maqalat, and that's published by Mayman Islamic Publications, Liaqtabad, Karachi. It's published in Karachi by a publisher called Mayman Islamic Publishers. And yeah, so this was published in January 2004. Now, why I'm going into these details, obviously, you'll be wondering the answer, inshallah, in a few minutes. But just keep notice of why I'm mentioning this specific reference with such concise details, or should I say such precise detail. So he says in page चुनाचे फरमाया कि अगर किसी इंसान की नाक से खून बह पड़े और वो इस खून से अपनी नाक और पेशानी पर सूरह फातिहा लिखे तो शिफा के हुसूल के लिए बतौर इलाज ऐसा करना जायज़ है, और अगर पेशाब से लिखे और इसको ये मालूम हो कि इसके अंदर मेरे लिए शिफा है तो इसमें भी कोई हर्ज नहीं, लेकिन ये बात मनकूल नहीं। वजह इसकी यह है कि शिफा के हुसूल के वक्त हुर्मत साक़ित हो जाती है। क्या आपको मालूम नहीं कि ज़रूरत के वक्त प्यासे इंसान के लिए शराब पीना और भूखे इंसान के लिए मुर्दार का खाना जायज़ है? Sayyid, can you read the English, please?
Yeah, sure. So Mufti Taqi Usmani, he says, if a person's nose starts bleeding and if he writes Surah Fatiha with the blood on his nose and forehead, then it's allowed to do so for the purpose of healing. Moreover, if he writes Surah Fatiha via his urine and he knows that there is healing for me, if I do this, then there's no problem in doing it.
Sayyid, so he mentioned, so he wanted to give a proof from Quran. He says that since you can eat swine and you can drink in terms when your life is dependent upon it. So likewise, if that's the only solution you have, you can use it. Do you get it? But tell me, any hadith from Rasulullah, any ayah in the Quran, or any specialist in medical, or in medical field, that by writing Quran using your urine can cure you. What does it tell you? Like, why are you mentioning such things? Give me one example. Give me, like, I challenge anyone that's listening to it. Give me one example when someone has tried this and they have got the shifa. Where are they getting it? And why are they even allowing it?
I don't think anybody would even contemplate such a thing. How could anybody think about writing the Quran with urine?
Do you remember that there was a strategy not so long ago? Oh, well, we're not bound by the sayings of, what is it? How did it go?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I found that really amusing. Someone pointed out that the same individual, the new kid on the block, who's very fond of quoting Shia narrations. Someone pointed out it's something that we actually addressed in one of the shows, that when he talked about a certain narration about the merits of going on ziyarat. Someone pointed out that we had actually addressed and shown narrations which had a penis length determination to read Salat. And when that was when a brother tweeted that to him, his response was, "I'm not bound by the comments of fallible scholars." So basically, when it comes to your own books, you'll simply, rather than address them, you'll simply, "I'm not bound by them," because basically you don't like that narration, so I'm not bound by it.
Yeah,
That's not really a very academic way to address things, is it?
Yeah, but anyone could use that approach. I could say, well, I'm not bound by any tradition or the statement of any scholar.
Absolutely, I can simply say, well, yeah, if you're going to say, "Oh, because our scholars are not fallible, your imams are infallible," but obviously the narrative, the books, the chain might be weak. You know, we could have all sorts of excuses. But imagine that. And the funny thing is, when we come to issuing fatwa edicts, then we're in a different game ball. You know, it's a different ball game, because obviously that's got a higher level, because you've got a scholar issued an edict. So edicts are based on an analysis of what's in the Quran and the Sunnah. So your Hanfi scholars, my dear friend, have deduced from, however they have, I don't know, Allah knows best, but they have deduced from their research and their sources that leading the Hanfi Salat, if they're two individual, is actually based on the size of one's manhood. You can't simply distance yourself away and say, because I don't like it, I'm distancing myself from it. That's nonsense. And here we go. Address this one now. You try to explain to us how any individual would even contemplate writing Surah Fatiha with his urine.
But we'll ignore that, of course. You know, our prime focus is just to, you know, make other schools of thought just look bad. You know, not dealing with the academic side, anything like that. But anyway, may Allah guide us. Let's come to the next, guide all of us, inshallah. Let's come to the next passage.
Say, before we go now the thing that we have discussed this. Now, what happened was that when this book was republished, they took the whole passage out.
The same book was republished and the whole passage has been taken out. They were so embarrassed by this. So even if they would try to look for a justification, it goes out the window, because even their own scholars knew, okay, this text is going to be problematic. So the best thing to do is just remove it. So they removed the whole...
Yeah. So anyone that is answering this, as Sayyid Ali mentioned, before you answer this, tell us the reason why this was removed.
Why was it removed? Because your own scholars didn't. They had problems. They start getting indigestion with it, so they had to remove it. Let me just show you the print. Which edition is this? It's a new edition.
Sayyid, I think that's the newer one.
Yeah, that's the newer
one. The one that we are quoting. Right? Obviously, that's. And same pages.
Same pages as well. Wow.
Same pages.
Wow, they
removed that passage. That specific passage was removed.
They got so embarrassed and humiliated. They knew how ridiculous and vile and disgusting it is. They had to remove that whole passage out. Okay.
Absolutely. And we need to be clear that if the Deobandi dynamic duo are going to try and address this and try to explain why it's okay to write the Quran with urine, our simple response will be, if it is okay, then why was this print? Why did this print have this text removed?
No, but demonstrate it for us, Sid.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, demonstration one thing, but the very fact that later editions expunged this offending text in itself proves that your own ulama recognize the severe consequences that essentially came from essentially writing this edict, putting it to paper.
100%
taqiyya needed.
Okay, so now let's go to the books of fiqh, because since Deobandis consider himself Hanafi, and this is from the famous book of jurisprudence, 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧, volume 1, page 365. The author, Muhammad Amin ibn Abidin, he has a chapter heading called healing with what is prohibited. Okay, what's considered to be unlawful as a method of healing. His statement: there's a difference of opinion about healing and what is prohibited. In Al-Nahaya Nahiya from Al-Zakaria, it's allowed if healing is known through it and there is no other cure known for it. In Al-Qi'nayah, I believe, about the meaning of the Prophet ﷺ statement, Allah did not make your cure in what he made haram. So, okay, so according to, yeah, okay, fine, no problem. I'm sure the viewers understand that so far. And then he continues and he says, as Al-Bukhari is narrated, there's no problem in using something in which there's a cure, as alcohol is allowed for thirsty in emergency. And likewise, the author of Al-Hadaya and Al-Tajnis, he says if healing is known through it, then he can write Fatiha with blood on his forehead and on his nose. It's allowed for the healing purpose and also with urine too. If it is for healing purpose, then there's no problem in it. So basically, if you think that there's going to be some sort of benefit of healing in something which is impure, right? Like blood, because blood, as Muslims, we consider blood to be impure, along with semen, along with urine, and feces and all sorts. But the point being,
say that it is like so interesting, right? Look, see what author has said. كما رواه البخاري أن ما فيه شفاء لا بأس به كما يحل الخمر للعطشان في الضرورة وقد اختاره صاحب الهداية في التجنيس فقال لو رعف فكتب الفاتحة بالدم على جبهته وأنفه جاز للاستشفاء وبالبول أيضا إن علم فيه شفاء لا بأس به. Like, how can a person know? Like, tell me, like, it just doesn't go into my head. Like, how can someone writing Fatiha or someone writing any surah or anything using his blood or urine, how can this give a shifa, Sayyid? Like, how can they even think like this?
So, excuse my words, for example, if someone gets, has an accident and let's just say hypothetically he shits in his pants or he urinates in his pants, they could use that potentially to cure themselves. How ridiculous would that? How ridiculous that? How stupid does that sound?
Stupid and offensive. It really is absolutely disgusting. I mean, yeah, there's no justification for it. That someone would have this need. You know what? The dynamic duo might try to deodorize this type of narrative,
hey,
but
listen,
they can't.
This is a book of fatwa.
Precisely.
And listen,
precisely.
If it was a book of fatwa, then why were they so embarrassed to remove it in a new edition?
That's it.
Why don't you? You should be proud of your ulama's fatwas. Your predecessors gave fatwa saying that this stuff was allowed. Why did you remove it? Why were you so embarrassed to remove it?
Absolutely. That's exactly it. That's what shocks me.
Because this fatwa actually endorses the previous text and where they're using this as a form of cure. So why were you so embarrassed to use it, to remove it from your new edition? Why?
So
exactly.
with all honesty, I have to mention one thing here, which is that there is a famous Braillevi scholar who has written a commentary on Sahih Muslim. The Sahih Muslim, he says that he has gone through it, this whole bahas, and he has said there cannot be any justification of this fatwa. Like, we cannot justify this fatwa just to avoid it at all. Like, he mentioned it. The reason we are not mentioning is obviously our mukhatab, or the people that we are addressing right now, are Deobandis, right? So if that would be the case, we definitely would have quoted him, and we would have shown, see, your big scholars have written. Obviously, your scholars realize it too and how bad it is, right? But isn't the Deobandis the same people that are against Braillevis right now and calling on Asrar Rashid? Right? So that's why we haven't quoted him. But if we would have quoted him, he has a whole passage and he has severely criticized these scholars.
I think there was
saying this.
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned. I know it's sidetracking slightly, but I think it's been brought to our attention recently that one of these individuals actually misquoted the Shia tradition, claiming something exists in Al-Kafi when it doesn't. But in the future, we will come to that whenever we get a chance. So let's inshallah continue. This is another book of 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗙 of
Let me
Allama
say it. Let
Read.
me, inshallah. Right. So it says, وَالَّذِي رَأَى يُرْقَى دَمُهُ. Right. فأراد أن يكتب بدمه على جبهته شيئا من القرآن. Right. قال أبو بكر الإسقاف رحمه الله تعالى يجوز. قيل لو كتب بالبول. قال لو كان فيه شفاء لا بأس به. قيل لو كتب على جلد ميتة. قال إن كان فيه شفاء.
Sayyid Zadi, you with us still? Sayyid Zadi? Sayyid Hassan, are you there?
I'm there. I'm here, just waiting
Okay.
for Sayyid Zadi. Really, just wondering.
I think
I think we may have lost it. Do you want to read the text out?
Yeah, sure. So, Allama Hassan ibn Mansur Qadi Khan in his Fatwa Qadi Khan, volume 3, page 305, and he says, and if someone bleeds and the bleeding does not stop, so he wants to write something from the Quran with his blood on the forehead, Abu Bakr al-Isqaf said it's allowed. He was asked if he writes it with urine. He said, if it's for healing purposes, then there's no problem in it. And it was said if he writes on a dead animal skin, he said if it is for healing purposes, then it's allowed. So basically, any type of, anything which is impure of any type, anything you can think of that's impure, if that can be used to save the person, for example, here as an example, or stop the bleeding, as it says, they could potentially do that. They could write verses of the Holy Qur'an with blood, urine, on animals' dead skin, and all sorts. Inshallah, we come to the next passage, and this is from 𝗙𝗢𝗣𝗢𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗙 in 𝗙𝗢𝗡𝗧𝗏. He says, Ibn Najim said, if an individual during Salah, during his prayers, his obligatory prayers, looks at the copy of the Holy Quran and reads from it, then his Salah becomes void. But not if he looks at the vagina of a woman with lust. So for them, looking at a woman's vagina in lust during the act of prayer, to be sexually aroused by a woman's vagina, that's fine. That would not invalidate their prayers. But if they were to gaze at a copy of the Holy Quran, that would make the Salah void.
Just shocking. Absolutely shocking. Look at the priorities here. Look at this. I mean, you'd think that the Quran is that esteemed book with such purity that even if you focus on it, even albeit by accident, what would the ramifications stem from that?
Look, sometimes it happens when you're praying. For example, when you're in a mosque, you may place a copy of Holy Quran in front of you or nearby.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking about.
While you're praying, you read it, put it aside, and then, okay, just say for example you glaze at that, they would consider that act to invalidate the praise. But let's just say if you called a stripper in, for example, and she was standing in front of you naked, and you look at her with lust, that's fine.
Absolutely shocking.
Essentially,
Sayyid, my understanding is that, look, I'm considering the situation.
A woman's vagina for them has more of authority than the Holy Quran.
Na'udhu billah. No, the way I'm thinking is that there are 2 or 3 possibilities. If someone is, if someone is praying and there is a porn movie on the front, and probably he's watching that and praying too. That's one possibility. The second possibility is probably his girlfriend or his wife, whosoever, is completely naked, and knowing that he is praying is still like doing what she is doing, right? There are only two possibilities that's coming in my mind, right? Now, can a
You're
Muslim
right.
even think like? Can Muslim even think? Look, sorry for being really explicit. I'm really, the listeners. I'm really sorry right now. But thing is, two possible. There are more possibilities too. But I'm just thinking. Generally, these are the two possibilities, right? That people
Yes.
might encounter this masala, right? But the first thing is that why would someone do this? Praying while having on his television or on his computer some kind of porn movie. And if that's not the case, the second case, then what would you say to your wife or to your girlfriend, whosoever, right? Like, don't you have? I would say for the wife, obviously, if there is a proper Muslim guy, how would you dare? How dare you doing it while I'm praying?
Yeah. Well, she could practically come with her vagina exposed, having verses of the Quran tied around her body. She could have like verses of the Holy Quran written in blood and urine all over her body. She
And
could stand there.
maybe she might have belly pain too, like, so she
That's
can
what I'm
write
thinking.
something into.
She could attach all these amulets around her body, around her thigh,
Yeah.
stomach. She could have verses of the Holy Quran written in blood and urine all over her body, and she could be standing in front of you. That would be considered acceptable, right? But God forbid you look at the Holy Quran, because if you look at that, your salah becomes void. Wow.
Allahu Akbar. Allah.
Truly shocking. Truly shocking.
That's why it makes you wonder that even when they have conditions for Imam al-Salah, what's the real reason behind it?
Yes,
Yeah, I know.
I think get it now. I think things are making sense now.
Exactly.
Okay, so
You have to join the dots.
So because they were so embarrassed, this is another example of the dishonesty, because we know we have this constant reoccurring theme of dishonesty by them. They were so embarrassed that they removed it in the later edition of this book. So this part about the vagina, it was removed. So it says if an individual looks at a copy of the Quran and reads from it, then his salah becomes void. The part that mentions after that follows, they've removed it. They were so embarrassed by it, they had to remove it. So, okay, even if now you were to come for a justification, whatever justification you want to make, oh yeah, because a person doesn't want to start becoming well, I don't know. What justification can you give for a person who's allowed to be aroused looking at vagina during salah?
Well, there is no justification, and the fact that they've tried to cover up their tracks
by removing it.
But the fact of the matter is, it's like when you have a crime scene, the DNA is all over it. It doesn't matter how much you try and scrub it away; it's always going to be there. And unfortunately, when we come to this reference, here we go. It's there. It doesn't matter how much you try to delete it afterwards. Your shameless DNA with this shameless fatwa appears everywhere.
Okay, so let's come to the last few parts. This is from the famous Hanafi book of Fatawa 𝗙𝗢𝗎𝗓, volume 5, page number 322, also known as Fatwa Hindiya in the Arab countries. He says, if a man puts his foot on the Quran Majid, on the Holy Quran, intending disrespect, then it's an act of kufr, then it's an act of disbelief. Otherwise, it's not. So if you make the intention that, right, I'm going to put my foot on the Holy Quran, if I do this with some kind of malice or a hatred towards the Holy Quran, that is an act of disbelief. Otherwise, it's not. Meaning, let's just say I get tired and I see some copies of the Holy Quran in the corner of a room. I could just put my foot on it and be like, you know what, I'm a bit tired. Let me just rest my feet here for a bit.
Or you could use it as a kind of like a footstool. You could climb it like a ladder to try and get something off the top shelf. Because the intention isn't to cause disrespect. It's just utilizing it to facilitate a specific purpose. So that shouldn't be an issue.
There's actually another fatwa, I should have mentioned this, I don't think I've quoted it here, where they actually mentioned that an individual is allowed to even sit on it. So he can use it as a saddle of some kind. There's no problem for no problem for the rider. So you can write the Quran with blood and urine. You could attach it to your body parts. You could. It's forbidden for you to even look at it during your prayers. You can step on it as long as you don't mean disrespect with it. What is this? And that's it. I think that's pretty much, we've come to an end. I don't know if you brothers want to elaborate further on what we just mentioned.
First, I'll ask Sayyid Zadi. Do you want to say anything else, brother?
No, Sayyid, I think everything is apparent.
Thank you very much. So essentially, yet again, we appeal to those who like to act as the caretakers of the deen, and particularly those who enjoy taking a very moral high ground and attacking the Shia Muslim community, suggesting that there are individuals that don't adhere to the Quran, don't believe in the Quran. Please, we would ask the dynamic duo who are at the forefront of being the protectors of the Deobandis sect, and those that seek to unhinge the Shia community. When it comes to the issue of the Quran, you really have nothing to say, because really you are a sect that whose insults of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's holy book, it goes beyond any sort of realm. You talk about something that I can imagine a non-Muslim, astaghfirullah, saying that, you know, the Quran is such and such a book. I wouldn't even urinate on it. Allah forgive me for saying this. But, you know, if a non-Muslim, you know, someone who hates Islam was to say that, you'd be baying for this individual's blood. And you are individuals that have given edicts on the permissibility to write Surah Fatiha with urine. You are individuals which have umbrage by the fact that you have umbrage with the fact that you cannot look at the Quran accidentally in salat. If you do that, your salat is voided. But if those same eyes focus on a woman's genitalia, they aren't. You are individuals that can place Quranic verses, attach them under under those areas which should not be observed by the opposite sex. So shameful indeed. How can you take any form of moral high ground and say tut 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 to anybody, when these are the sorts of beliefs that you adhere to? And in all honesty, you know, when we think about it, at the end of the day, you are individuals whose ancestors were those that raised the Quran on spears in Safin. So maybe there is some reason why you have this concept of disrespecting the Quran, because you are their spiritual successors. But in any case, kindly steer clear of taking the moral high ground and going out and attacking the Shia community on the Quran when you have such atrocious beliefs. Sayyid Ali, do you want to say anything further?
No, thank you very much. Sayyid Zadi, any last words? Yeah, just everything we presented today. I just want to make one, actually, it's very important. These verses of the Holy Quran which we presented, there's no indication or evidence whatsoever that writing the Quran with blood and urine will benefit you. Rather, it's quite the contrary. Applying urine and feces to your body will definitely do damage. In no way do we encourage you to look at women's vaginas with lust during your prayers. Basically, don't try this at home. And more importantly, please, please, please do not stand on a copy of the Holy Quran. It's extremely disrespectful, regardless whether you mean to do it intentionally or unintentionally.
Thank you very much, Sayyid Ali. It's almost unfortunate that we have to have these type of warnings at the end, but so sad is it that we've had to quote the types of disgraceful, shameful edicts today. You know, I'm particularly at a loss as to how we've got to where we are. We are nearing the end of our series on the Deobandis. Obviously, the said individuals thought they were very clever, going to Hyde Park and starting this, seeking to start this fire. Alhamdulillah, we've contained it, and now we have essentially restored the favor to them. Inshallah, once we conclude that, we will return to our programming schedule. This was a kind of intermission that was needed, but that's sufficient for this week. We are, as I said, we're nearing the end. very, very soon. And really, that's about it, I think, for this evening. Jazakallah to both brothers. Inshallah ta'ala, remember us in your prayers as we shall remember you. Assalamu alaikum.